It is 6:01 on Monday, June 6th. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Winooski City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Deputy Mayor Jim Duncan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Agenda review. Any questions about tonight's agenda? Elaine, should I add an item related to our June 20th meeting?
That would be a good idea, thank you.
Okay, so I would like to propose adding an item L, to vote on moving our June 20 council meeting to June 21, given the potential city holiday. Any questions from the public about that? Okay, could somebody make a motion to approve the change to the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Jim. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. It is now, I feel like, I'm sorry about that. Okay. It's now, I'm still hearing it. Public comment on our agenda. So if you are here, you wish to speak to anything that's not on tonight's agenda, now would be the time. If you're here in person, you can raise your hand. All right, sir, if you want to come up and state your name.
Good evening. My name is Joel Collada. Do I go forward with my question?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm
trying
new
to
here,
fix my
if you
tech.
can't tell. I was just curious about the status of any bike lanes being painted, maybe on like Center Street or Mallett's Bay. I was just walking and noticed they were in need of some fresh paint.
Sure, John, our Public Works Director, do you have an update?
No update right now. We have to put a bid out to do that work. It's not something we can do in-house, so we're starting prep on that bid. We do have budget this fiscal year for repainting, so that starts in July. So probably the earliest would be around July that we would start painting this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And if you're attending via Zoom and have any public comments, you could raise your hand or use the chat feature. Okay. So we are at our consent agenda. We have our City Council minutes from May 16th, the accounts payable warrant of June 1st, subsequent to payout warrant for April, and payroll warrant for periods 5/1 to 5/28. Also, the Juneteenth event permit application amendment. Are there any questions about consent agenda items? Any questions from the public? Okay, hearing no concern, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are on council reports. I think I'm starting on your end this week, Aurora.
Okay. Don't have anything major to report. The next Save Healthy Connected People commission meeting is going to be next Tuesday, so that's going to be June 14th, if anyone wishes to join that for public comment.
Thank you. Bryn.
I also don't have much to report at this time. The next Infrastructure Commission meeting will be June 16th. Location to be determined. Last month we met at the pool, so we'll see if that's available, but we might be at City Hall. But we met in person last time, and that was the first time we got together since the pandemic hit. So it was really nice to see everybody in person.
Awesome. I have just a couple of small updates. The Planning Commission did have a public hearing, I think it was May 26th, with the priority housing incentives language meant to update our zoning to prioritize affordable and 3-bedroom housing. There was some public comment at that. The commission did request some changes to the language, and so did not advance it to council at this time. So they're going to be reviewing it again at their meeting this Thursday, and then holding another public hearing on their June 23rd meeting. Big thanks to staff, our Centennial Committee, hundreds of community members who came out for our Centennial celebration. It was like super successful. I really like seeing, that many people together and engaging. So, and thanks to downtown Winooski and the businesses and partners who helped with that too. I also am back to recording a monthly In the World of Winooski episode via Town Meeting TV, which is meant to be an opportunity to share community information, so not just council meeting updates. Our new manager, Elaine, was able to join me, and we also had our executive director of Downtown Winooski on there to talk about events planned for this summer. So we share that on the website, but want to remind people that exists. And also to you as counselors, I don't have to host that show. If there's ever something going on that you are involved in or aware of, or a community organization, we can use it for pretty much anything. I also had an update from the Vermont Air National Guard. You may know that part of the F-35 fleet is overseas right now, and so there's been reduced flying schedule. That is supposed to continue, I think, through August. And with the exception that at some time in July, there are going to be jets here from another base for a couple of weeks. And they should be sending that information to us, to staff, so that we can push that out, so folks know. That is it for me. Jim.
So the Housing Commission was not able to meet with a quorum, so we'll hopefully be reconvening soon, but no update on the planned date for the next Housing Commission meeting at this point. And I'll just call out in particular, I want to thank again Chief Richard Menard and Tribal Council member Bob Richards, who attended the Centennial celebration with us and raised the Missisquoi tribal flag over Winooski. So you can now see that, and that'll stay there as part of our first step in further engagement with Abenaki people and their role and use in Winooski. So really excited that they could join that event, and appreciate everyone being there to help support that.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I met with the Downtown Winooski board last week. Two kind of reminders and then just a short update for council. Meredith's working with the Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community to continue pursuing that $30,000 marketing grant. She seems pretty optimistic in the work that she's putting forward to that and it moving forward, so that will be really exciting if we do get that. And then just two reminders, Winooski Wednesdays start June 8th. Those are 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the Rotary. And then the Juneteenth celebration is coming up, June 19th, and that's 3 to 7, which I know we're all super excited for. And that's all I have.
Thank you. We will turn now to city updates.
Great, yes, we were very happy to see so many members of the community at the Winooski Centennial Birthday Party on Saturday. Special thanks to the Centennial Celebration Committee, again, the Winooski City Council, Chief Menard of the Missisquoi Abenaki Tribe, and our amazing partners, businesses, volunteers, and staff. The US Route 7 and East Allen Street road work project is underway. That is a Vermont Department of Transportation project, and the city is bouncing their updates to our website, email list, social media, and Front Porch Forum. Myers Memorial Pool is open. Full details to be updated at winooskivt.gov/pool. Thanks to the Community Services and Public Works team for making that possible. Speaking of community services, Winooski Recreation and Parks are looking for a new Recreation Operations AmeriCorps member. This volunteer service opportunity is perfect for people ages 21 and over and supports all the amazing programs at the pool, in our parks, and at the community center. The city is also hiring for a city treasurer and a water resources equipment operator too. Learn more and apply at winooskivt.gov/jobs. Public outreach for open commission seats will begin this week, including finance, planning, development review, Winooski, Commission for Inclusion and Belonging, Safe, Healthy, Connected People, and Municipal Infrastructure. Again, the second annual Juneteenth event is on Sunday, June 19th at Rotary Park, 3 to 7 or 8 p.m., not sure which. Visit downtownwinooski.org/Juneteenth for details. We're celebrating Pride Month at the Winooski Memorial Library. Throughout the month, we'll be posting book reviews and recommendations from local elected officials and community members that highlight LGBTQIA+ voices. Follow at Winooski Library on Facebook and Instagram to view, and more to come on Pride Month at the next council meeting. Winooski Wednesdays do start this Wednesday, June 8th, 5 to 8 p.m. at Rotary Park. Music and outdoor market for those of you who haven't participated in before. Staff did delay the COVID Business Impact Grant second round to get more input on how to improve accessibility of the application to the most impacted businesses. We do plan to ask council for approval to award some short-term need applications sooner, and stay tuned for the full grant re-release soon. And finally, the Planning Commission will continue their discussion on priority housing incentives this Thursday, as the mayor was saying, at 6:30 p.m. The public is always welcome to attend Planning Commission meetings. Currently, they are only held virtually. If you're not sure how to do that, by Thursday, 4 p.m., call City Hall at 802-655-6410 for help on how to join that meeting virtually. You can find the link to the meeting at winooskivt.gov, in today's Front Porch Forum, or in your email today if you are subscribed to City Updates.
Thank you. So we are moving into our regular items. Item A is on for discussion, the Vermont Department of Transportation US 27 and Route 15 roadway improvements overview. John, are you going to introduce and then have your guests join?
Thanks. So we have VTRANS here tonight. So Matt Bogacek is here. Darren Conley, I think, is online. He's the resident engineer, so he's the person out in the field inspecting. So Paul, if you can bring him over. And then we have Natalie Boyle from EIV Consultants. She is the public information officer. Okay. So they're here. They're gonna give an overview on the project that's going on East Allen Street and Main Street. You've seen some milling work probably already on that corridor, so they're gonna talk about what the scope of that work is and how to get in touch if there's any concerns.
Prefer if we sit or stand?
Oh, please, yeah, have a seat. You can pull up another chair if you need to.
Come on up.
Tag team.
So thank you for having us. My name is Matt Bogacek. I'm the project manager on the paving project down here. So the Winooski portion, as well as the composite section that's done in Burlington. So this project is based out of our Class 1 paving program with VTRANS. Basically, it's coming out of the Vermont state statutes. It says that VTRANS will come in on a cycle and maintain the surface of all of our Class 1 town highways. What that translates to in the real world is all of the Class 1 town highways throughout the state. We come in and we do essentially a mill and fill paving project. We try to incorporate pavement markings and changes where possible when cities or towns are asking for them. And we maintain that surface, which again is about 2 inches. So the scope is just that in Winooski and for the Burlington section as well. We are milling. The milling is complete at this point, as probably many have seen. The project limits begin at the bridge over the Winooski River, head up through the circulator, and then head to the interstate ramps, and actually extend just past the interstate ramps on the other side towards St. Mike's. And there's also a small section out, it probably doesn't matter if I point, but out to up the hill from the circulator in the concrete panels, as well as the small segment of concrete panels right here on West Allen. So we started milling this past week, and we have completed that activity. The next thing that people are going to see is there'll be a lot of work on the structures that are in the roadway. We'll be doing some curb work in the central islands. We'll be adding a new island down near Mansell Street. That'll be for a crosswalk that's coming up with the final paving and pavement markings. Lots of adjustments. There will be one course of pavement that'll be placed relatively soon, probably in the next couple of weeks or so, roughly. That's just the leveling course. That's not the final pavement. That will not have the final pavement markings. So just be aware that we're not done when we pave this next lift. There's another one that's coming a little bit later. Basically, that'll cover up the milling, true up the roadway surface to give us something nice and solid to pave on top of, so that we have something that's relatively structurally sound moving forward. From there, again, lots of curb, lots of DIs and adjustments to get prepped for that final wearing surface, and then we'll be paving the final wearing surface and striping. For the most part, the functionality through town for traffic is going to be relatively the same. There's a bit of a change heading from the circulator back towards the interstate, where we'll be installing a two-way left turn lane in the center of the road. I mentioned that new crosswalk by Mansell Street. There's also a crosswalk that's getting adjusted slightly by the interstate by Dion. So there'll be a couple of minor tweaks there and some lane reconfiguration, but it's very minor. We are limited with the scope that we have to stay within the existing paved surface. So there's only so much that we can do, but we worked with the city when we were developing the plans. We took some of the suggestions and we were able to incorporate a fair amount, I believe, to help out and do what we can with this project. The other big component that is coming along with this project after working with the city through design is we will be removing the concrete panels to it would be the east of the circulator, I believe, up the hill. I want to say north, but it's up the hill. It's to the east of the circulator. So from where we ended last year, where we were doing the slab repairs and maintenance activities with the project last summer, we'll be picking up there and actually removing the slabs up to the bridge over the railroad tracks. And then on the other side of the bridge, the city's project is going to take care of the last few panels, was our understanding, at least through design. We are also picking up the panels that are on West Allen, so just coming off from the circulator back. So those existing panels will be taken out. They'll be replaced with conventional hot mix pavement, or what you would expect to see when we say pavement. It's a little bit easier to maintain. There's a lot more contractors in the state that know how to maintain it, and we have about a half a mile of concrete panels, so it's a tough thing to consistently maintain with the contracting pool that we have right now. So those will be some of the major changes. They are coming this summer. This portion of the project, like I mentioned before, it is a composite with Burlington. So technically the contract overall, including Burlington section, is a 2-year contract. So it will be complete in 2023. However, the Winooski portion is planned and set in the contract to be complete this summer in 2022. So all of the work at this point in Winooski will be done in the 2022 season. There'll be portions of Burlington closer to the roundabout project that'll be finished up in 2023. And there's also portions in Burlington that'll be taking place this year, namely down Riverside and turning the corner to head towards the roundabout. Did I miss anything?
I wanted to clarify, by summer, you were talking about the Winooski part being done this season. I think there's a fall interim completion date, correct?
There is a fall, yes.
So when he means this season or this summer, he doesn't mean like by August.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, I think
End
it's
of
October.
October.
I think it's end of October is the interim completion date for Winooski. So you won't see us in 2023.
Yes, sorry. I think
Um,
very much in seasonal. We pave in the summer and we don't
Yeah.
pave in the winter.
And so I guess for my part, I did outreach on Circulator last year. I think most of you are on my list for this year, so you saw our first updates go out. I contacted all of last year's stakeholders, offered them the opportunity, maybe you had seen that email, I can't remember who I put on it, but to either stay on my list or be removed. They all wanted to stay on. We did some great outreach so far this season, and I walked all of East Allen and put door hangers on everybody's doorknobs, and, multi-use home units as well. So I think the word is out there. I spoke with a lot of the business owners, again, particularly at the top of the circulator and four quarters, because they're going to see the most amount of disruption. Everyone's happy that it's a night project, for the most part. I haven't had too many complaints. I haven't had any really from residents as far as the noise or the light pollution goes. So as far as I know, unless Darren weighs in and has heard something different, I didn't get any complaints with this initial round of milling. However, summer might be a little more difficult because I believe there's some jackhammering that might be involved with rehabbing structures and things. And so that's more of a static operation, and they may be in front of some residences. Well, they will. They'll be in front of some residences for, maybe a couple of nights. So that might be difficult for some residents. As always, though, just please send folks my way. I know that they tend to call City Hall, and that's fine. Give them my contact information. I will be the best. I'll be able to find the answers to questions, or at least give them accurate information. Sometimes it's hard, I want the noise to stop in front of my house. It will, but not for the next 4 days. I don't, we're just as upfront as we can be so that expectations can be managed. And we have a great team, great contractor, and Matt and Darren and myself, really doing our best to mitigate the disruption as much as we can. So again, if there's any questions or concerns at all along the way, just feel free to get in touch with me.
Well, thank you so much for the overview, and appreciate the level of outreach that's happening.
Thank you.
And being available for residents with concerns.
I'm enjoying working with Winooski again this year. I was glad I got this contract. So thank you. You have a great community, and everyone's just so understanding and patient. And it was really a good experience for everybody last year, at least on our end.
Awesome. One point of clarification from me. Did I hear you say something about a turn lane and a light? Did I mishear something?
You did hear about a turn lane.
Okay, can you go back to that, please? I missed the
absolutely.
details.
Yep. So heading back towards the interstate, there'll be a two-way left turn lane in the middle of the road. So you'll have lanes heading towards the interstate from the circulator, back from the interstate to the circulator, and in the middle of the road, there'll be an opposing left turn lane. So vehicles can exit the flow of traffic in the through lanes heading either direction, make their turns. It removes that stoppage time, so to speak. So it takes that stopped vehicle out of the flow of traffic, allows cars to head past. Sometimes referred to as a road diet, sometimes it's just a reconfiguration of lanes and making more space. It actually has proven to improve some flow in a lot of places, where, because you're removing that stopped car, you're allowing vehicles to head past. So there's some benefit in that term. As far as the lights go, it's a good point. I didn't mention that. There are a couple of signals throughout the area. And with this project, essentially what we're doing is, if you had detection there that the project is going to disrupt, we'll be replacing it to make sure that the functionality of the signal comes back into play. We, however, are not upgrading full systems with this scope of a project. They're city signals, so that's where we want to make sure that we provide back the same functionality that we got here with, which in this case, we do have a couple of places where we're going to be installing new detection to make sure that we put that functionality back into the system.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
And do other folks have questions here?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And follow up on the mayor's question, so that essentially we'll remove the eastbound 2-lane and reducing that to 1 lane.
Yes.
Okay. With the line striping and following up on the public comment earlier, will there is it planned to have a bike lane incorporated with the line striping?
There are bike lanes included with this project in that area. There's a couple sharrows, and there are some bike lanes headed back down from the interstate. Okay. So there will be some bike facilities that were able to be incorporated.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can add on that as well. So I will say VTRANS has been incredibly accommodating with us. You might remember back, I think it was in 2019, 2020, we did the eastbound scoping study where we did a public outreach effort to review how to best lay out that corridor, and we had 2 recommendations. So one was a short-term improvements that were low cost, mainly painting, knowing that there was going to be some work happening, and then the more expensive, like if we reconstruct the whole corridor. So I'd say most of those short-term options that were recommended are in this project, which we're really happy about. So a lot of bike ped improvements along the corridor with the bike lane, and the Manso Street pedestrian crossings getting much more enhanced than it is now. Even the Dion Street ped crossing is getting a larger island and improved RFBs. So yeah, we're really thankful for the accommodations. We tried to get that signal in. I just, Mayor Christine, I know you're shooting for there. We tried to go for that one, but not part of the scope, unfortunately.
And one more follow-up question. So the some of the streets just to the east of the highway, there can be quite a bit of congestion with like high commuting times. Is there a way with line striping to do some improved flow? Perhaps, I know just where the St. Mike's campus comes to an end at Florida Street, there is the hatch striping that's there, and that has maybe little effect. Wondering if instead it's possible to move back where all cars are stopping to the top, to the eastern side of that very corner where the St. Mike's property ends. So it would mean that there would be a greater distance rather than going right up to that light around Roland Court, I guess. And that's heading westbound.
Right. That's a good question, and it's certainly stretching me back to my days in traffic design where I was dealing more with signals. I believe, and I would have to check, and I can follow up for kind of specific to your question. I believe that there's a setback distance from a signal that you're allowed to do based on the MUTC or the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, so the kind of the guiding book for all of us. It is something that we could look at. I think that we would be really stretching that distance a little bit further than what may be acceptable in that case. It would make it a pretty far distance back. But to your point about pavement markings, and again, we are fairly limited with this scope. We will be reinstalling and revamping all of the pavement markings out there. They're all durable applications, so they'll have that retro reflectivity when we put them back in. Hopefully they'll stand out a little bit better. There will be some signs that are incorporated with this, so if the sign wasn't there for some reason, or if it happened to take a lot of abuse from snowplows and the retro reflectivity has worn off, we'll be replacing that with a new one, so hopefully that will help draw attention to it. I will have to check in on the signal and stop bar interaction. I know that there's certainly a distance that you can come up to with how close you can get to a signal, and I thought that there was a cap as far as how far back you have to stay as well. The other thing that's a little bit complicating, and again, this pushes my memory back, is you're installing another unsignalized intersection into a signalized intersection if you stop it behind that,
Florida Avenue.
Yes, that road that comes in, sorry.
Yep, that's right.
So I would have to look a little bit deeper into it. There are some complications, and I'm not sure that we can get it with pavement markings alone.
So, just thinking about safety, and perhaps something for consideration for future study, but opportunities to just improve the turning. I don't know if it makes, obviously we're trying to maximize the number of cars that are heading westbound to the interstate, but also want to be mindful of those three roads that are just immediately east of the highway, and the turning, left as well as right-hand turning from each of those, and just the speed that cars tend to come from the east towards the highway. So it would be great to have a follow-up on that at some point.
Sure.
Is there a diagram perchance of the future state or like the changes that are planned?
Yeah, we do have the contract plans.
Yeah. Is there a publicly accessible friendly version?
There is an engineered plan set that I have available. I do not have like a hearing roll or
Okay.
a color coded type image. I do have the plans. I think that you have a version of it, and if not, I can certainly get you the contract plans.
We can cut out the Winooski plans and put them on our website, I think.
If it's
I think
visually
they're-
readable.
Yeah, I
too.
think that would be,
Okay.
Yeah,
for the typical public, I think it would be understandable.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
they're aerial graphic. You can see the changes, generally speaking. You know, there's certainly a lot of design elements behind it, but I think you can take a look at them and see the differences that'll be there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Those are all my questions.
Any other council questions? Any questions from members of the public? Sure. Could you introduce yourself for
Sure,
the
my name
record?
is Judy Lance, and I happen to live on Road Court. Which I just would like to say that I hope you keep the signs coming off the interstate that say no turn, no right turn on red.
Yep.
These people ignore them anyway. And every time someone leaves, a guest leaves my house, and I'm going out the end of the street, I say, be very careful. Don't assume those cars coming off the interstate are gonna stop when you get a green light. Because probably twice a week, and I don't drive in and out of there that much, twice a week when I get a green light at the end of the street, someone comes slamming off the interstate. And sometimes people coming, heading west, eyes down the street, think they're gonna get a green light, because the next light down the hill is green, so they'll take off. So I always roll my window, push my window down, open it, and look out at the cars coming off the interstate, and hope they're looking at me. But we don't have very many accidents, maybe none, I don't know, and people coming off my street that it seems like an accident waiting now. That's just an aside. Did I understand you to say that within about a week there'll be the first layer of paving? Down?
I would say that they'll be starting in the next couple weeks.
Okay,
So 1 to 2, I think you'll see some paving activities out there.
and once that first layer is down, are all those manhole covers or whatever all those things are, all of them, are those gonna be more level than they are now?
So that's a good question. With the first lift of paving, they still will be up slightly. So the first lift or the first application of pavement is planned to be a ½ an inch roughly across the whole width of the road.
Did
So
you say the whole thing is 2 inches?
the whole thing is 2 inches, right? Yep. So with the first lift of paving, it'll come up slightly. They're still going to be up about 1.5 inches, you know, roughly above that new surface. There will be some adjustments that'll be taking place, but they're really prepping for that final lift of pavement, which is that 1.5 inch thickness above it. So for a short time there, yeah, they still will be up. They'll be a little bit better, they'll be a little bit closer once we put that leveling course on. But they do have to stay up higher so that we can come back and pave back in that last application.
And with the first lift, you'll, like, a roller court is cut in or milled in maybe, I don't know, 20 feet or so.
Yep.
That will get a first lift also, right?
Yes.
Because it's terrible, it's really bad.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so, all right, well, it is what it is, and then the final paving may not be done until fall.
Yeah.
Probably September, typically, how a project like this goes, it would typically be September. We can chat if you want. I send out weekly updates, and that will give you a better idea of, oh, they're gonna pave that first lift next week, or oh, they're going to, I try to give a look ahead for the upcoming. So on Friday, these will go out Friday morning because it's a night project, and that's when I connect with the project team, is Friday morning before they all go to bed for the weekend. So I'll send them out on Friday via email, and it will let you know kind of what their plan is for the next week coming up, Sunday through Thursday. So I'll make sure you get my contact information.
Okay, sure, thanks. Okay, and then this two-way turning lane, that will eliminate one travel lane, is that right?
That's correct. back up the hill towards the interstate.
Heading east towards exit 15.
Yes.
Okay, and is that gonna go all the way from the circulator up to Florida Avenue, or where's it gonna go? Is that-
Yep, so the limits of the two-way left turn lane begin roughly at that Mansell Street or just to the other side of the railroad tracks, and they extend up to just before the on-ramp for I-89 southbound. So that area, kind of where the gas stations are and between the railroad tracks and the interstate, that's where that will be confined to. The lanes that are down this way towards the circulator will be relatively the same as what was out there prior to us going them off.
But the islands that are all there now, those are gonna stay?
They will get modified slightly. The one that's closer to the interstate gets a little bit larger to accommodate the pedestrian crossing that's going right there to, that one's at Dial Street. Yep, so that one's gonna get a little bit larger, to the downhill side of the interstate. Now I get myself spun around in directions. So that one gets a little bit larger on the downhill side. There's a new pedestrian refuge island that's gonna be down at Mansell Street, so there'll be a new one there. The rest of them in that stretch, I don't think that they're,
The one at Brooks Crossing where the railroad tracks cross?
that one will be staying in, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, all right. So I also happen to be a volunteer in this gardening group, and at the median at exit 15, there's a good sized garden that we put all over. You're not gonna mess with that, right?
No, the only one that we're messing with, and I just wanna be sure that it's the one that's on, 15, but just to the downhill side of the
Where
interstate.
the gas stations
Yes.
and by Dial Street.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, okay,
Other than that, they'll be remaining the same.
okay, all right. I think that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Mayor, Darren had his hand up from
Oh, great.
VTRANS.
No, Matt answered the question. I believe the contractor is hoping, with the weather permitting, that we're gonna start doing the leveling course on Wednesday night. And it should take us 2 nights to do the leveling course, so hopefully Wednesday, Thursday night, we get weather that lets us pave, and you at least won't have the rumbly tumbly roads that you have right now. So it'll be at least a smoother surface, so.
Thanks, Darren.
We might have another comment coming through. No more questions in the room? Okay. We had an attendee, Amy Germain, in the chat ask, what is the time frame for the Main Street portion of the project, and how far up Main Street will that go? And will there be night work through October?
Sure. So Main Street is the section that's heading up the hill towards Colchester.
Yes, yes. So you said
Yep.
to the bridge,
So
right?
to the bridge, right. So there will be night work. I can answer that question really straightforward. So there will be night work throughout this summer in Winooski with this project. As long as we're in the city working, the contract is structured such that they work from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. I realized that was a piece that I had missed when we were talking about it before. So it is a 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. project. So anywhere within the project limits for our contract, it is nighttime work. That doesn't mean that they'll be here every week, every night, day in and day out, because they are working in Burlington as well. They have to complete portions of both projects this summer, this summer construction season. So by the end of 2022. So there will be night work. It may not be every single night. The limits for this project, just again to mention and clarify again, it's within the concrete panels heading up the hill out of the circulator, and then they stop at that bridge that goes over top of the railroad tracks for our project. As far as the Main Street project, that would be something that I believe the city has in plan, so I can't answer that part.
Yeah, so roughly about where 4 quarters is down to the top of the circulator is the panels that you all will be replacing.
Is there an email or website you could just verbally share where if somebody's not on your list, they can get those updates?
Yeah, the best contact would be, and I don't know if someone wants to type it into the chat later, I don't know if my card is here, but it's N Boyle, so N is in Natalie, Boyle, at EIV, as in Victor, tech.com.
Okay.
And this is my perfect time to put in my shameless plug. If you Google search the word V transparency, so like VTRANS, but V transparency, it'll come up to a public facing website that's run by VTRANS. In that section, there's a whole host of information that you can dig into and really spend a lot of time finding out a lot of information about the agency and different projects. But at least in the computer view, on the right-hand side, there's a section that you can click on the map view of construction projects, and you can navigate to different towns in cities throughout the state. Anywhere that there's a project, you'll see a color-coded road in that vicinity. If you click on that road and click on more information, it brings you to the project fact sheet. From there, Natalie's contact information is in there. There's also some generic information about the project. You know, it talks through the scope, it talks through the project limits, what we're doing. Some of them become a little more in depth. You know, if there's a major reconfiguration of a intersection, then that might have a longer fact sheet trying to show here's what it is, here's what it's going to be, you know, why are we doing this sort of thing. With this one, because it is essentially it's a 2-inch mill and fill paving project, it is relatively straightforward. It kind of defines what that scope is that we talked about, but it has Natalie's information on there. It's a great place to go in and take a look at all the construction projects that are happening, you know, wherever you are living or where you're traveling, anything like that. I love this website. I love looking at it. I like sending it out. Any chance that I talk to anybody, I tell them go to V Transparency. It's an awesome place to take a look. It is just, you know, minor caveat. It's just the current construction year plus 2 years out. So if there's some major reconstruction project that's coming, you know, 5-10 years down the road that people from VTRANS have been talking to you about, it's probably not going to show up on that website.
Yeah.
It's really just that, you know, upfront view of what you can expect in the next few years from VTRANS. This project's on there, as well as the Burlington section. Natalie's contact information is on there, and again, there's a few other pieces of information out there. So if you didn't get her email address, Google search VTRANS.
Paul dropped it in the chat for our attendees.
Perfect.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
And I was gonna say, Paul takes my updates, and they're getting shared by the city, they're getting shared.
Yeah.
So if anyone just jumps onto the Winooski website, should be able to find my information and or the actual update as they go out as well, so.
Excellent.
And is that website, Be Transparency, is that mobile friendly?
It is.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing all those details. Thank you, Judy, for coming to represent from the neighborhood. And we will look forward to continue seeing progress there.
I'll leave a few business cards here just in case.
All right, and then John, you'll stay with us for next item B on for approval, the Northern Border Regional Planning Commission grant application.
Yes, thank you. So I'm coming to post-application on this one. So this is a grant that we submitted for in 2019 for the Main Street project, and we're awarded a grant for $450,000. Unfortunately, we had to deobligate that loan because the deadline to use those funds was this September. We tried to argue COVID impacts and, you know, just the current construction climate. But unfortunately, they had no room to basically allow some buffer in the schedule. So they did strongly encourage us to reapply, and the good news is they have increased the amount to $1 million. So that's what we submitted last week. So we had Heather Carrington, our former CEDO officer, help prepare that grant, and so we applied for a $1 million grant directed to the Streetscape General Fund portion of the project, and that's where we need the most financial help. And it's a 50% match, which we more than cover on this project. So we will find out, I think it's later this summer, if we are successful, but just wanted to formally, officially get this in front of the council and see if you have any questions, concerns on it.
Thank you. And as I recall, when you found out that we would potentially lose that grant, we had a council conversation about it, you know, with the indication that we would be interested in applying again, so.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from council?
I guess two things for me. So I was reading through the materials and it said, you know, it asked the question, have you been awarded? And the answer is yes. It didn't see any additional narrative that gave the caveat that we were awarded the money, but we didn't actually have the opportunity to use it by the deadline. So I don't know if the reviewers will already know that, or if it's good to emphasize that, yes, we did get the initial award, but we actually we didn't utilize the money. Just so it doesn't seem like they're not looking at, you know, 1.5 million in award. It would just be the 1 million in award. So, but there might be some additional text in the application that I didn't see.
Yeah, it's a good point. We have a good relationship with the USDA reviewer. They have a local reviewer that makes recommendations. She is very familiar with the project. We did outline what the issue that we were awarded but then deobligated. There's a requirement if you do have an award, you have to spend, I think it's like 75 or 85% in order to reapply. So we did make that very clear.
Great.
There were, yes, we had to deobligate because we couldn't get to that expense. So,
Okay, great.
yeah.
And then the follow-up, so at least so far as I read through the application materials, the argument was that if we were not awarded the funds, that would potentially impinge or potentially sacrifice some of the bike ped scoping. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, as far as the bike ped scoping, there really isn't any scope reduction. That may have been a little creative license by our grant writer, but yeah, as far as the project goes, the bike ped improvements include expanding the sidewalk. There's not going to be any changes there, and then the uphill climbing lane, that would not change. There's really no scope reduction there either.
So at least perhaps elements that would lead to best management practice, but not necessarily a full reduction without that funding.
Yeah, there's no elements that we could just pull out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If we weren't to get this grant, is there an option to reapply, or is there like a plan B?
Yeah, we would keep reapplying for this one if we didn't get it. I mean, even say if we do, our goal is to be out to bid next month as soon as we get through the right-of-way process. So we would still have if bids came in where we could afford it and we could start the project, we would still have 2 more years of potential construction, so we could apply. Same for all grants, honestly. Like until we're done with the project, we'll keep applying.
Any questions from the public? Again, you can use the raise hand feature in chat. Okay, hearing no concern, do I have a motion to approve the Northern Border Regional Planning Commission grant application?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, John. Okay, next up, item C. This is on for discussion, the State Treasurer's Report. Our Treasurer, Alex, will be joining us via Zoom, I believe.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Alex. Welcome.
Oh,
And
there we go.
can see you now.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm pleased to present the 2022 internal controls checklist. I know that we have sort of the external, we have the external audit each year, and that's sort of a more extensive list, but this is sort of a digestible list of sort of common sense internal control questions. Is it one person doing everything, or do we have sort of that separation of duties? Winooski continues to sort of have, the yes answer where it should be yes and no where it should be no. This year, the only changes we had over last year, which was approved, is that we had a change in the assistant treasurer position, and so sort of the corresponding remarks were made there. Otherwise, everything is consistent. The only other thing I do want to remark on is I want to kind of emphasize sort of the available training that's available for any city council, and so if there's any kind of extensive interest on that, I would be happy to sort of maybe put together a calendar on sort of the live trainings that are hosted by the various kind of Vermont organizations and accounting organizations that really kind of help train on governmental accounting. So there's a whole calendar there of live events as well as material that's available. And so we'd be happy to kind of put more emphasis into that instead of just saying, yes, it's available. I'd actually like to make that a little bit more, have more follow through with that item.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. Does council have any questions about the checklist?
Just one.
Sure.
Alex, on the checklist, maybe about halfway down, there's, it'd be great if these were numbered, but it says, is interest account accounts apportioned to each account, and both yes and no are checked?
Yeah, so that it's sort of okay. Angela will actually have a better explanation for it. It is a yes and no, though. That is intentional.
So we do allocate out interest for like our enterprise money market account that we have that has funds in it from both the water and wastewater department. Interest is allocated proportionally for that. We don't allocate interest proportionally for our general fund account. I've had questions the entire time that auditors haven't really been able to help me with in terms of the funds that have negative balances. Do you charge them interest? Or, how do you make that equitable between the funds when there are accounts that have negative balances against the general fund? So the general fund all comes to the general fund for interest received, but everything else goes to the fund where it's carried.
Okay, I understand the last column is more of a roll. It may almost be beneficial for a note to be added if possible, just to proclaim.
Absolutely. Maybe potentially could set up a document with more extensive notes on each of these things, and those could roll forward. As was announced earlier in this meeting, a new city treasurer will be on board. The city is looking for a new treasurer, and so that may be sort of as part of their onboarding that may be helpful for them instead of just the yes or no.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't want to overcomplicate an already full document, but just in that area where both yes and no are checked, for me, it would help to have some context as to why, but otherwise.
Absolutely, and because in this document, it also lacks sort of a historical perspective as well. I noted there weren't any changes from last year, but how do we compare to 5 years from now, for example, as well? So having that little bit more detail will help kind of clear out which items, do we need that historical perspective on or not?
Great.
So,
thank you.
No, good comment, and I can work on that. And thank you, Angela.
Go ahead, Eva.
I was going to say the only thing I had a question on was about those potential trainings. I think it would be interesting just to know what's available, if that's easy enough for you to do, or even just.
Yeah, absolutely. I can prepare a document. There are multiple organizations with both kind of live trainings, in person and remote, as well as material available as well. And some of that does cost money, but it's not extensively expensive.
Elaine?
Alex, if you want to send that to me, ewong@winooskivt.gov, I can make sure that council gets it in their packet.
All right, absolutely. I'll do that.
Any other questions from council? Members of the public? Okay, thank you so much, Alex. Appreciate it.
Thank you, council, and thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
We will move on to item D. This is on for discussion or approval, the FY 22-23 policy priorities and strategies update.
Yes, so you all received the version of the policy priorities and strategies table that you discussed at your retreat a few Saturdays ago. It is supposed to reflect that conversation, so the idea today would be to make sure it reflects what you expected there. Could be a bit of a conversation. Most of the leadership team is here to answer any clarification questions you might have, set some more context if needed. And if you're prepared to do so, the idea would then be to have you, if you're allocated 5 dots, if push came to shove during the year and we did have to put something on the back burner, these would be the things that staff would make sure we're making progress on. So for the public's benefit, there's a must-do category across all of our vision areas, recommended category, and a if we have time, it would be great category. So the vision areas are cross-cutting across all of our priority areas: economic vitality, housing, municipal infrastructure, and safe, healthy, and connected people.
Quick request, if possible, can the link for the sheet be put into the chat just for folks to have access to that?
I'm on it.
Thank you, Paul. And as you get into discussion, if there are changes, I will put the live version up on the screen so that you can all make sure that what we're revising is reflecting the discussion.
If we're talking about a potential ranking or dotting of different categories, when we look at the must-do versus the recommended versus if there's over time, are the must-dos already considered dotted, or are those up for consideration as well? Because I know a lot of those are already in progress.
Right, well, you would put your 5 on anything, is my understanding of how it worked last year. Ray?
Yeah, correct. Well, I believe actually last year there were, for each section, I think counselors got, trying to remember if it was 3 or 5 or something, but for each block, I believe it was 3.
I think 3 per section, yeah.
Okay.
So it's for the category area.
Well, that makes more sense, thanks. But within each priority area, you could vote on any 3 across must-do, recommended, and new.
Yep, correct. And there were some, definitely some last year that were in like recommended, not must-dos that rose up and had higher priority per council's perspective than some of the must-do items. So yeah, it doesn't have to be must-dos first or recommended second. It can be kind of anywhere within there. Or at least that's what we did last year.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
start? Okay.
Well, let's not do priorities yet, or
No.
voting yet,
No,
but if you have
I have
questions,
questions.
yeah.
So my first question is, and I think this really good argument either way, is I noticed that launch and support Inclusion and Belonging Commission and about the language access plan seem to appear both in all and in safe, healthy, connected people. And I think the wording included in all is, I think, more inclusive and has more to it. And I feel like it should be in all, but I wanted to just flag that, especially like considering if we're voting per category. And I didn't know if any fellow counselors thought.
I noticed that too, yeah, and I would consider those all.
Yeah.
I would prefer to see them in there than in the SHCP section.
So I'm gonna share my screen here. Not going to, oops. Paul, can I share my screen?
Well, in 2 seconds. Hold on.
Okay,
Go for it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, that's awfully small. Let's see. go away and make that part bigger. Can you read that? Just focus on column B here.
Yeah, so 68 and 69, those are duplicative of what's in the all section.
Yeah.
So is it safe to delete those two? Or do we need to make sure that the language is covered in the all?
Language is also covered in all, so I think they could be deleted.
Okay. Delete those two.
Yeah, the only one that I think the Inclusion and Belonging Commission one, in all, the wording is good. The language, it's just slightly different language for the language access plan. One calling it a plan, one calling it a policy. So I don't know if there's a best way to combine those two.
And then bringing in the language from the SHCP, if it just said develop and implement access policy plan, I think that was the language that was.
Yeah, develop and adopt language and information access plan.
I'm sorry, develop.
And adopt.
Adopt. It doesn't say implement.
Another one that I noticed is going to housing. So there was some language that I really liked in the original document that was removed in this version. I don't think it needs to be its own section. I think it could fall under any number of sections. Specifically, we had in previous one of the previous drafts was identify potential improvements to renter protections and empowerment in Winooski. And I would just like to make sure that language stays. I think it could go under assist housing commission with policy work or under support tenant and landlord connection. I think it should go in a must-do rather than a recommended, but I feel like that language is important. Honestly, it could even go in the housing summit or educational opportunities, but I would like to see it somewhere.
So that one, I thought there was not consensus at the retreat, so just need to see where the other four of you land on that one.
Yeah, I think the discussion landed us on the current language that exists in the document.
That's my recollection as well.
Yeah, like that is something that is in discussion in the housing commission part. Like it hasn't been lifted up to a implementable task yet. It's something under discussion within housing commission.
So my understanding is that previous years, this language was put on and then removed. And I think I think it needs to be elevated or it's not going to be worked on. And I think it falls under policy work. So I think if we have assist housing commission with policy work and just have that within there, identify potential improvements to renter protections and empowerment in Winooski.
So personally, I think that's maybe something that would go into like the master plan goal and not into the proposed activity.
Well, in my recollection of the conversation, it's the one that support educational opportunities for both renters and landlords to learn about build connections. And with the conversation that we had was that this happened in the housing commission as like this is something we'd like to talk about. And when the housing commission talked about it was, well, it's not just tenant protections and empowerment, it's the fact that we need to build better systems to support landlords and renters and property managers to all access to resources and supports that they need. So that came out of the housing commission, as I recall, and so well it's listed from the previous like last year's recommendation is kind of transmuted into that through discussion with the Housing Commission. And that's a conversation I remember having at Policies and Priorities Planning session, so priorities and strategies, is that this is trying to take a step back from focusing solely on tenant supports when we know we have a larger community of property managers, landlords, and service providers in the nonprofit community that we need to work together with. So that's where I saw that language being wrapped into the support educational opportunities line. It's also a little bit in the one below it, work to improve partner models.
Could I suggest identify potential improvements to systems involving all members? I feel like it is important to have that language of improvements, maybe not even, I think there's a need to specifically say we want to improve the current system. And if the Housing Commission can look into that, or say at the Housing Summit, if we can look into that, I think that's important to state.
Perhaps point of coalescence could be support tenant and landlord connection and identify opportunities for systemic or system improvements.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Elaine, does that work?
I believe so. Could you repeat, please?
Yeah, so support tenant and landlord connection and identify opportunities for system improvements.
And I think the staff would agree that that's something that they are looking at constantly, and so having that explicit here is absolutely supportable.
Okay, great.
While we're on housing, I wanted to ask a little bit more what the thinking behind work to improve partner models Winooski Housing Authority is intending to accomplish. Well, I guess I'm particularly curious why it's calling out Winooski Housing Authority in that one.
So John Audi isn't on, so hopefully somebody else can help me with the explanation here. But currently they are not being charged for the same way that the other landlords are for building inspections. So it's a discussion of how we can make the system basically more equitable so that we can better serve the community.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's a laudable goal. I really feel like that falls under the update public building registry ordinance, because that was that's where that inequity is baked in, as I understand it. And I also think that working to improve our partner models goes beyond just the housing authority. I'm a little concerned about calling out one of our housing partners in that way, when we know it's already kind of included in our, I guess in what I thought we meant by the first one on update public building registry, but I don't know how other councilors feel.
I think you're right. I actually got an, open to whatever else council wants to say, but I got an updated understanding today, so I think you're right, and we could remove that and know that it's part of the first one.
I thought it was wrapped in there too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this is, I may be misremembering, but in capture funding from state for airport sound mitigation, it's primarily federal funds, or is there a separate state funding pool that's envisioned for that?
Not that I'm aware of, yeah. That was just me writing from my notes.
Got it. So if we just, I think just capture funding from federal state sources for airport sound mitigation. Well, I don't know if that captures the partnerships you've been working on out with Efficiency Vermont previously.
I actually don't know I don't know what this is intended to mean. So where we're at, the program exists, it's being rolled out. The city of Burlington is in the airport are in charge of applying for the funding. And then, oh my God, you just said their name. But not them.
Was it GMP?
GMP, not GMP, Jesus, Vermont Gas, excuse me.
Keep going.
They're providing the match dollars.
Right.
So I feel like for this coming year, there's not the only action related to sound mitigation is us working with the airport to make sure our residents get informed
Yep.
and access to the program. Though there is going to be a future need to work with them on additional match funding, because I don't think the Vermont gas funds go super far into the future.
So is it more about ensuring enrollment in airport sound mitigation?
I think I would say that for this year.
Yeah, I think, at least the last airport commission meeting I was on, which might have been March, February, I don't remember. Basically was, improving the communications,
Yeah.
to our residents and understanding, like, what's the process? When can they sign up? When can they find out what the phasing timeline will be? So they, hadn't gotten to that point, and I did not get a timeline for when that communications would be available. I mean, I know that they have a website where they direct people to, but it certainly has opportunities for additional communication on and FAQs for
Yeah.
frequently asked questions.
I don't want to go too far down the weeds of where that program is for this
Yeah.
conversation.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I'm going to suggest that we rephrase this to partner with Burlington on communication to residents on the mitigation program and look out for additional potential match funding for non-local match funding.
Yep, I think that is reasonable considering where they are in their timeline.
Unless there was like something completely unrelated that was.
Did we just go on?
No, I think that's what was coming up. I certainly wasn't aware of anything special.
Okay.
Does that capture what you just said?
Non-local match funding opportunities.
Non-local match funding like that?
Yes.
I like non-match though.
Do you think communication and to an education of residents? I don't know. That might
That
be
feels like
internally
too
too much.
unnecessary detail.
I guess ultimately, does this?
It's
make
supporting the
sense
program,
that-
yeah.
Right, that's like what we're asking for.
I think it's okay. As long as we don't get into a debate with our partners on how we'll collaborate.
Are there any more items of question?
I feel like I need a reminder on the West Allen Street Park plan.
We approved in the budget like a scoping study for that?
Yeah, so basically they take the conceptual plans from the parks plan and move those to construction level documents in this year. So that would be a contract that we would bid out for landscape architect or a construction firm of some sort to develop those conceptual plans into more construction level documents. Because right now we just have a very high level plan. It's not something we can build from.
Gotcha, okay.
So advance West Allen Street Park plan to construction ready?
Yeah, I feel like that helps. Get a little bit more context.
I take your point.
One thing for the What section is it? Safe, Healthy, Connected. For increased recreational program offerings, I don't know what opportunity there is to explore a different staffing opportunities. Like, does the staffing need to come from the school for us to be eligible for those funds, or can we still be eligible with non-school staff?
So, yeah, so the way that works right now is that that's a contract, we are contracted by the school to deliver programs. So actually the staff delivering these programs are generally city employees that we're paying through that contract. So the ESSER funds are not, I think the school is using ESSER funds for some school-based staff as well, but the contract that we have with the school is paying for city-based resources to deliver these recreational programs.
Okay. Can you tell me which programs are after-school programs are using school staff?
Yeah, so right now, we're using ESSER funds, and I'm gonna try to remember this off the cuff, so I'm gonna say I'll be 80% to 90% there. Thrive Summer is being used to supplement anyone that's not eligible for state subsidy support.
Sorry, didn't you ask what programs are using school staff, not
Correct.
city staff?
Correct.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant funding. So in terms of school staff, I guess I'm not quite sure what your question is. Like, which of our programs are using school staff?
Correct.
So right now, we have Thrive staff who also work at the school during the day, but they come over to us and work as our employees in the afternoon. So we don't have any school staff that are kind of serving or working in our programs at the moment. When they come over to us, they are our employees.
Okay. That is excellent clarification. Is there opportunity to find additional staffing for Thrive?
So yes, we are definitely looking at that. Certainly for the summer as well. I think that's a big area. One thing with last year's ESSER contract is that we had one full-time recreation position baked into that. It was like a recreation assistant. That position went vacant in January. That was Robin Hall, who left us sadly in January. So what we're looking at with that position is, would we be better served to retool it to more seasonal people versus one full-time person full year, and really try to target the resources at the times when we're most busy. We held off on having that conversation until we had a recreation director, which we now have had for all of 2 weeks. So I think that's over the next couple of months, a conversation Rob and I are going to have about how best to deploy the resources of ESSER around staffing.
Okay, and for context, since I know the rest of council has no idea what I'm talking about or why. It was a conversation we had with the Congolese community on Saturday and with the school that there is a need for additional in-service training hours and for the school staff, and that there are scheduling conflicts when they're participating in our programs after school.
Oh, gotcha.
So having context as to whether or not those are our programs, how they're funded, requirements, all of that helps me have a better understanding as to if there is opportunity to find different staffing, or if there's opportunities to be creative and coordinate with the school so that the school staff can participate in training when it's planned and announced, and we can have additional support staff. So needless to say, for this particular item, as we look at expanding, increasing options, recreational options, I would want staffing and coordination with the school to be a component of that.
Appreciate you sharing the information from the school Congolese meeting. I would advise that we don't go that in the weeds on any of these other items though, of like, here's how we want it implemented at this time. Are there any more items with questions?
I had a question that's something that's not on here, just thinking through the resolution that we passed for the Abenaki Acknowledgement and Land Use Rights Agreement included commitment to some additional ordinance development, a revision for fees for waiving for the, and I guess I want to know, is that considered part of business as usual in implementing those 3 or 4 items from the resolution, or do we need to identify them explicitly here?
That's a great question.
I think that's a line question.
Either way, from the staff side, I would say.
Well, given that you adopted a resolution, it should be business as usual, but I've captured that note because we do need to do that.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from members of the public at this time? You can use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Okay. Should we get into voting then? Prioritizing. Unless you had a logistics plan. I think we could go through each section and just rattle off our top 3. Do we want to do that?
Yep, and I'll put the asterisks in for your vote.
And we can take turns being first.
Hey, Lane, can I ask you to zoom this out just a little bit so we can see a couple more entries, maybe just like one step? Thank you.
Do you want to see all of them?
No, I don't think that'll work for later ones, just to see a couple more, thank you.
You want to start, Aurora, in the all section?
Sure. My 3 for the all is expand systems and capacities and assess necessary resources. Launch and support inclusion and belonging commission. And the access plan, language access plan.
Like that?
Yep, perfect.
Britt?
I would like to see, next steps on the ARPA allocation discussion, TIF planning, and launch and support the Inclusion and Belonging Commission.
Like that?
Yes.
I'll take planning for TIF expiration, assess administrative structure system efficiency, and what are we calling it now? Develop and adopt access policy plan. Perfect.
It's like Jeopardy.
I'd like, I know, right? I'll take city manager onboarding, and I'm serious. If we're not gonna if we're only gonna do one of these 3 of these things.
That is actually primary, yeah.
Thank you.
The launch and support inclusion and belonging commission and the planning for TIF expiration.
Just a comment. I think that kind of fell into my original question. Like, if we don't all vote for that, we're still going to continue your onboarding. I would hope. Like,
yes.
Okay. So that's why I was wondering, like, if like the must-dos really need a vote, but that's cool. So I'm going to go with continue ARPA funding, expand systems capacity and assess, etc., and the access plan, including language and information access policy.
I should have numbered these. Is that what you had just voted on?
Yes.
It's hard to tell at this point, but.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and Thomas, just to your question, fair point, but, again, if push came to shove, maybe we would do one of these and put my onboarding a little bit aside for a few weeks.
But I guess I do want to make that point that I think one of the, like, this won't work if you aren't supported. So I guess I want you to feel that, and I'm might be throwing away a vote, but, and I know that no one else would disagree with me that we want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
So if any of this is getting hard or is just not going to work because of your process of getting up to speed, I hope that we'll all be able to circle around and support that, even if it means taking one of these other high priority things and giving them a break. So I guess that's my personal
Yeah.
feeling. I'm sure similar sentiments shared by others, but I do want to signal that too.
Yeah, I don't think we can do any of the others
Yeah.
without making sure you're supported.
I appreciate that. Hopefully the team does well as well. Okay.
You want to go first in economic
Oh,
vitality?
jeez, I'm not ready.
You can take a moment to look.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
All right, I'm happy to go second. I'd say implement specific initiatives related to the Working Communities Challenge Grant. Develop and execute tasks managed by the vacant CETO position. And land use incentives.
I would actually take the same three.
Yeah,
Are you
that's
saying the
my same three
Okay.
too.
Wait, so that was 3 right now.
Yeah, 3 for that. 3 there. And then 1 above it. Jim?
I'll take redevelopment of 17 Abenaki Way, working communities, grant objectives, and land use code incentives.
And Thomas?
Hang on a second.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting carried away.
I missed your second one, I think, right, Jim?
I did working communities was my second one.
Okay. So redevelopment of 17 Abenaki now has 1. Implement specific initiatives now has 4. Develop plans for CETO is 3, and land use code incentives now has 4.
Redevelopment of 17 Abenaki Way.
There we go.
Implement grant-funded wayfinding scope. And land use incentives.
That was clear, Eric.
Do I have to start this time?
Yeah, you get to go first in the next one. In housing.
Well, it's so easy. I can actually go first because I know what I want. Update public building registry, assist housing commission with policy work, and launch and monitor housing trust fund, please.
Oh, look at that, we got it right.
It's a good must-do list.
Thomas?
Update public building registry, support tenant and landlord connection, and identify opportunities, and plan and host citywide housing summit.
Assist Housing Commission with policy work. Build off recommendations from the equity audit. And plan and host citywide housing summit.
I would like, assist Housing Commission with policy work. Launch and monitor the Housing Trust Fund. And build off recommendations of the equity audit.
I want public building registry update. Launch and monitor housing trust fund. And support tenant landlord connection. I will say, I almost threw one away on reappraisal, but we're like legally mandated to do that, so.
Yeah, you can throw that one away. We got that.
Okay. What are we at next? Municipal infrastructure? Thomas?
Sure. Main Street Revitalization Project, West Allen Street Park Plan, and identify proposed city energy goals and possible development incentives, sorry. It's the third up from the bottom.
Oh, there it is.
I have prepare citywide ADA transition plan, or just at the top. Right in the middle is OCC slash, actually no, hold on. Sorry, I had the identify proposed city energy goals. And then the final one, explore protection of natural areas.
Okay. I'm gonna prioritize like to see Main Street revitalization prioritized. And
Wait, was that just one thing you said, or?
that's just one. Yep,
Okay.
Main Street. Citywide bike ped master plan.
I think it's down further.
That isn't it?
Yep.
And city energy goals.
I also want Main Street revitalization as a priority. The OCC St. Stephen's Visioning and Planning. I want Winooski Burlington Bridge planning, but I guess if we don't get the grant, then it's not really that important. I'll say the ADA transition plan.
This is really interesting going last.
Who can give this?
I know I need more than 3 dots. So I will also take Main Street Revitalization Project. I feel like we should do some parking updates. So I'm going to take parking updates and oh my gosh, I got lost in it again. The OCC St. Stephen's Visioning and Planning.
So I skipped myself because I thought there were less buckets than there are, but we still have safe, healthy, connected people. So I'll go first on this one.
Is there any way we can get an extra dot for this one? There's so many.
I will take regional dispatch. Develop plan for tenancy at O'Brien. And tower ladder replacement research financial planning.
I will say that Angela, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's gonna happen, right?
That is planned to happen. We have the bid out right now, and I believe that's coming in the next couple of weeks. We'll get the financing information from that bid. We'll find out if the amount that the voters have approved for the bond is enough. And then we'll strategize about the use of reserves towards that purchase or how much is going to be financed. That's really what that is.
Oh, okay, so that is not a throwaway vote then.
Okay.
That's what I was wondering.
Thank you for checking.
I really do feel like we should get more votes because this is more departments, but if I had to stick to 3, and so my voting on recommended is not meant to diminish my desire to see all the must-dos done, so I hope that's taken with that caveat. I do want to see, I said I will take PD K-9 program, develop plan for management of Memorial Park, and school resource officer model.
Increase recreational program offerings, including through ESSER funds. Develop plan for tenancy at O'Brien. And PD K-9 program. I'd like to pick more.
You can't.
Keep asking. Keep getting no.
Sometimes, you just.
Just remember the 2-hour long presentation we did on current operations.
Alright.
I have increase recreational program offerings, back at the top. School resource officer model. And continue work to bring increased childcare options.
I would like to ensure tenancy at the O'Brien Center. Increase childcare options. And plan and develop additional volunteer opportunities for youth.
Thank you for that. Question, clarifying, what is your understanding of the tenancy item there?
I will say it is either we are working on this contract with an external partner, or if that's not working out, then we need to figure out how we're gonna manage those spaces and keep things community accessible.
Okay. Is that what council, okay.
Yeah.
Like
That's
so?
a good update.
Okay, that's helpful, thanks. All right,
Okay,
wonderful.
do you want us to vote and approve this?
Yes, please.
Do I have a motion to approve the update to policy priorities and strategies?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Aurora, second by Jim. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. With that, it's 7:40. I'm going to call a 5-minute recess. We will reconvene at, according to my clock, 7:45. I will reconvene us for our Winooski City Council meeting. We are in the regular items on E. This is on for approval, the Juneteenth holiday recognition. Elaine, will you introduce that?
Yeah, so last week you considered whether or not to add a holiday to the staff holiday list. Juneteenth to recognize the official end of slavery in the United States. It sounded like your general consensus was that it was comfortable. We wanted to give you some time to consider it because it was new coming to you. So it's on for your action today if you're ready.
All right, any new questions from council on this item?
Uh-oh.
Nope.
What's happening? Who's muted?
Oh.
Should we start over?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's try that again. Can we show council? There we go. We'll try again.
Item
So-
E.
Yes. So the Juneteenth item is on your agenda today for action. Last time you considered whether or not to add a holiday to the staff calendar, which of course would also close the building to the public. And it sounded like you were in favor. The holiday is Juneteenth, which is celebrating the actual end of slavery in the United States.
Are there any new questions from council?
No.
No.
Any questions from members of the public? Reminder, you can use the raise hand feature. Okay, hearing no concerns. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the Juneteenth holiday recognition?
So moved.
Motion by Aurora, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are on to item F. This is on for discussion or approval, inclusion in belonging commission council liaison selection. I believe we have Yaz on Zoom.
Oh, you had it before. Go back to gallery, I think.
Oh, Yaz, can you hear us?
Uh-oh.
Well, generally, we appoint a member of council to each of the commissions to serve a liaison role. I don't think there was anything extra in here.
Let's just ask for an appointment to the commission.
Oh, Yaz can hear us. We can't hear you, though, I'm afraid. Is there anything, if you want to put it in the chat, if there's anything you want to add, I think beyond like this is a request to appoint one of us to serve as a liaison to the commission?
Yasmin just sent a message. She says laptop malfunction. Simple request, just as you stated. Yes. And Yasmin, if you want, you can try to just log out really quickly and log back in. Sometimes that helps.
Well, in the meantime, I know Aurora, you have expressed interest in the past in this role, and you're still interested.
Yes.
Would others be supportive of Aurora serving in this position? Is anyone else interested?
I was also interested, but if you expressed first, more than happy for you to do that.
I feel like their interest was stronger, so.
Yeah.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the appointment of Aurora Hurd as council liaison to the Inclusion and Belonging Commission?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Excellent, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all.
So item G has been able to return.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yes, you're there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. I'm on my phone now.
No worries.
Sorry about that. I don't know what was going on with my laptop. Yeah, so this is another item that's up for approval. These are the appointees that have been reviewed by the small committee of the existing commission chairs. And this is what we have sent as a recommendation for the 4 regular members and the 1 alternate member. And then that would leave 1 regular member open and 1 alternate member open to continue the search for. But this will allow us a quorum so that we can start holding meetings.
Awesome. I recognize some of these folks, think they'll be excellent. I was also impressed with the spread of the commissions of interest selection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll actually fill things out. Do folks have any questions about any of these appointments, potential appointments?
They all look great.
Yeah.
Any public comment? I don't think any members are here with us this evening, or candidates, I should say.
They are not, but I did notify them and let them know that their applications would be shared at this meeting.
Excellent. Well, I'm not hearing any concerns. So would someone like to make a motion to approve these appointments to our Inclusion and Belonging Commission?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Yes.
Thank you very much, you all.
Okay, so on to item H. This is on for discussion approval, the multilingual ARPA survey sessions agenda and timeline update.
Yeah, so you'll notice that the framing was changed slightly. My understanding is from previous listening sessions, and it's to reflect that now the ARPA money is, use of it is much more flexible than when you last considered. Also, there is the TIF money coming up available. So we thought that it would be a good opportunity to get wider input. You know, the questions are still specific to COVID impacts, because that is definitely, should be an eligible use as council has decided. But it seemed like a great opportunity to consult this particular set of groups, meaning these language groups, on the broader question, which is how do we spend this unusual money, invest it in a way that's going to be beneficial to you. So that's part of the framing, but there's still that pandemic related question set. So the schedule is there. It's changed slightly from when last time you saw it. The June 11th was rescheduled for the July
9.
Yes, thank you. So just wanted you to see that and then present the talking points as the deputy mayor had requested last time. So if you want to make any changes to that, feel free, and we can adjust that in time for the first session, which is this Saturday. Oh no, two Saturdays from now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any
Which
questions,
unfortunately I
comments?
can't attend now because I have to move and my husband will divorce me if I don't.
Are there any questions or comments about these, the talking points? I think we're all on board with the agenda.
Yeah, I really appreciate having them, and I wanted to see, I'm trying to imagine the flow of the event and where you imagine conversation, like sharing, like verbal sharing comes versus filling out the survey. And because I guess I can anticipate a situation where verbal sharing begins or is kind of mixed in with clarifying questions. So I'm just curious, like if the goal is to get to survey filling out and then go to conversation, or if the goal is to have some listening and engagement before the surveys are filled out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't want to presuppose that Paul and Yasmin haven't considered that. I have some thoughts, but I'll let them respond first. Paul or Yasmin, do you? Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you, Elaine, and thank you, Council. No, I think it could be, you know, an organic mix of both. I think ultimately what it's going to come down to is what's going to be easiest for the interpreters to convey, and what the schedule of events will be, and the talking points sort of sequentially. I think obviously, you know, when we get into these situations, we have agendas and we have a timeline, we have things listed, but you know, it could start out where there are just other big general questions. And I think if we are facilitating space to listen to folks, there's no reason to think that we couldn't do that first and, you know, take down notes. And then maybe that would help sort of form the more formal intake on the forms themselves. I think that would be fine.
This is city specific, so we won't have any members from the school district attend this meeting either.
Nobody from the school board or staff have been included in this conversation. The priority has been to reach out to the multilingual liaisons at the school because of their obvious connection to those language groups and communities. So at least for the Winooski School District, it will be that heavy connection. But we can certainly reach out to the school before the first session begins and see if they want to send somebody availability as well.
I certainly think it would be helpful to extend an invitation, certainly not an expectation, but I think that the community experience tends to merge the city and the school. So if they have a school board member or someone from the school itself that can attend, I think extending an invitation would be a nice gesture.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. Just a clarifying question, I guess, for Angela and Wayne and all of you council. If we are involving representatives from the school, whether they be staff or school board, this larger sort of extended pile of money, if you will, since we've sort of taken it from COVID. Is that worth considering there in what we could possibly do at the school and an expansive sort of an idea and shared funds with the school district, or do we still need to think of this as a siloed funding opportunity?
I see what you're saying, Bryn. Like every time we have community conversations, there's questions that sit with both municipalities, with us and with the school. I would invite them to attend and listening, but I wouldn't want them to be doing introduction or facilitation. Like I wouldn't want it to turn into a very school-focused meeting. Nor would I want to imply that we would be then partnering on use of these funds.
So it sounds like what I requested was not interpreted the way I intended it.
Yeah.
So in no way did I mean that.
Yeah.
It was more along the lines of the community experience tends to be that they blend us together. It can help to have them there in that listening role. But again, as I mentioned, like it's a nice gesture to invite them, but not not one where we would consider this a partnered listening session. I would want to ensure that we, at least for the time being, have the distinction that this is a city-led effort, but knowing that we are a greater community, again, just extending an invitation, like, hey, we're doing this, I want you to know about it.
I would say if we went down that path, I would want to have staff first check with the liaisons interpreting. I don't know if that would like impact their, I don't know. I feel like we should ask them.
I see the value of having them in the room for listening. I do also see the need to be better or have stronger facilitator, co-facilitator roles with the city manager and with each other to make sure that that conversation stays focused on the larger issues. Because yes, some issues we shouldn't be asking residents to decide like, well, is that a school spending issue or a city spending issue? That's not the question that we need to have them, that we need to get out. Like what we need to just say is like, what are the issues? Then we can figure out what we can do and where we might be able to take some support or some partnership, but that's a down the step stage. So I could see we'll synthesize this information. We'll certainly have things that we should be recommending to the school that come out of these listening sessions that would fall squarely within their municipality's role. But so there's that, like, we should do that no matter what. If they're also in the room listening at the same time to hear that information for themselves, I can see that being valuable. But with that expectation that I think there will need to be strong, based on my experience, there will need to be stronger facilitation to make sure that it stays focused on the issues that we know we need to address, or the questions that we need to get through in this process.
So maybe the invite to the school is, we are doing these things, we plan on giving you information from them that's applicable to you, and if members would like to join in the listening capacity, they're of course welcome. But also letting them know, say if they can't do it, that they'll still get information that is important to them.
That seems reasonable to me. I think with your caveat, Christine, that checking with the liaisons that they're okay with that presence, given the kind of direct oversight. There's like a supervisory conduit there that wouldn't exist if school leaders weren't present.
Yeah, but I definitely think Bryn's suggestion is getting at kind of what came out of the equity report specifically, so.
Is that clear, Paul?
Yeah, that's definitely clear. I think I think, you know, it's anytime we get into the two municipalities, this is where we get into this pile of money being a little bit more, maybe amorphous is not the right word, but you know, we're trying to address, you know, how can we help you, you know, generally, right? There's this, as Elaine has put it a number of times, there's this weird pile of money, right? And how do we make your lives better? I think, you know, if you're asking two different organizations to you know, be involved in that process, obviously with the resources that we have, you know, that answer is going to be different, obviously, and there's going to be specific stuff to the school. So, I mean, you know, it's definitely worth reaching out, of course, as always. You know, as they're one of our biggest partners, and so yeah, I think just a formulated ask, I think, can be thought about. I also want to consider the schedule too, Elaine. If you're not going to be able to be there on June 18th, and since we are, one of the other pieces of this was to re-solidify the schedules. You know, that one date we moved from the top to the end does kind of shift things around, and I think that counselors will have to reconsider what dates they want to attend. Jim, to your point about, you know, some strong facilitation, I think, you know, having having a city manager and a counselor, and if we're inviting somebody else from the school, to have all three of those people there at each one of these sessions is probably pretty important to be able to, you know, get everybody on the same page. Again, since, you know, the topic of this whole conversation is reformatting the the talking points in the way that this is communicated appropriately. Is a big deal. And again, you know, without a really strict timeline, which I think is a huge gift for all of us and not something any of us are really used to. I think, you know, playing with the schedule a little bit could certainly help. So if we even shifted it once more to start on, say, June 25th and then go from there, I think that would be also a possibility.
So believe I'm scheduled for June 18th. Sorry?
As am I.
Okay. I feel comfortable and confident staying with that date. Would love to have you there, and also happy to keep the schedule, considering it's not that far away. We've already moved one date around. Don't want to bounce dates around too much, but all right.
Yeah, I mean, this is
What
the
are your
only one
thoughts?
that I can do at this point with a change. So
Gotcha.
if we move it further back, it'll be August before I can attend the next one,
So-
which isn't necessarily the driver, but that is a consideration.
Okay, so I feel
Elaine,
like we should keep the June 18th date.
Will somebody be going in your place?
I actually haven't discussed it with staff because it just came up today. We were trying to we thought we had a moving truck for this Saturday and it wasn't available, so. I'll check in with staff. There is a possibility that I can come. I just wasn't able to commit, so either I or a member of the staff will be there.
So it says the communications manager is going to be in attendance. So does that hit the mark? Do we need an additional?
No, I will definitely be there as well as planned.
I think just to where the city manager has a speaking role. So I don't know if Paul would fill that or if it would be another member that Elaine would send in her place.
I'm happy covering those bullet points as well. So I don't know if it needs to be specific to city staff or city manager. I don't know if the perception
Well, I think
of a counselor giving those talking points really matters.
I don't know if it was that perception, but I felt like when we spoke about this, as we were just trying to make city government seem more open to people, so having a counselor and staff, but Paul can probably fill that role, so.
I think we also need someone, the benefit of having someone from staff present is having that operational insight that we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So, sorry, go ahead.
Jim.
No, I was gonna wait for Paul to go.
Paul.
Just to look at the schedule one more time. So we have Bryn and Jim for the 18th, and then with that July 9th date at the other end, or what's the availability there?
So right now, it's me and I think Aurora on the 9th. And then who's the 25th?
That's me.
And
I thought, Aurora.
you're doing 3. That's unnecessary. I could probably do the June 25th one as well.
Okay.
Just so you don't have to take 3. Then I could do 2.
Okay, yeah, that would work for me.
And if you do need to move it, if the staff discussion results and we really need to move this later, and we can't do the June 18th one, I can do July 23rd. That would be the next one I could do. And I have no idea, Bryn, if that works for you. But,
I need to check my calendar.
okay, so
I'll put an asterisk next to that one, but we'll plan to focus on the June 18th date.
Say it might work.
Okay, but it sounds to me like our goal would be to keep with this schedule as possible. And then Elaine, you and I can check in tomorrow on what staff support looks like. Well, whenever you have a chance to talk to your staff. Paul, do you have any more questions? Like, is there anything else that would be helpful for you?
No, I think this is great. I'll reach out to the school district and make sure everybody's still on the loop after we've had some conversation tomorrow.
Paul, let's check in first about asking liaisons about how they feel about having their supervisors at the school potentially in attendance.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
I raise one additional thing to consider on the liaison question. I think we're in talking about the order of operations of these sessions. There was the idea of what would work best for liaisons interpretation flow versus trying to get to survey filling out first or having discussion then survey filling out. That could be worth asking if you're already going to be in communication.
Yeah.
And see if there's a preference by community or a preference overall that would help us order those discussions. If that fits.
Yep, that's a good idea.
So I know this is on for discussion approval. I don't know that we really need to vote to approve or not. I guess somebody could make a motion to approve the talking points and schedule with the caveat that we are we still need to confirm some details with staff availability and with the liaisons that we are hiring for these.
I would make such a motion.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I did think it would be useful to have your concurrence on the wider frame, which was
Okay.
nice, so thank you for that.
So now we're on to item I. This is a new sidewalk permit for Morning Light Bakery.
Yep. Here comes Jenny.
Thank you.
So Ken was,
Mayor and
Ken-
council, yeah, Ken.
he was planning to attend, but he can't now.
Oh, he's not, okay, he was gonna attend by Zoom.
Oh,
Ken is here.
Yeah.
Welcome, Ken.
Wonderful.
Hi, Ken.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Yes, I'm glad I'm able to make it here today. Sorry that I couldn't attend earlier due to some personal emergency.
Right on time.
Yeah, I was actually trying to get things set up, but I'm glad I'm here. Thanks for having me here. Yes, so I'm here representing Morning Light Bakery today. That's my my family's business that we have had 3 successful years in Winooski, and actually seeing a lot of familiar faces right now, and which really makes me happy how we got to where we are today. Yeah, so the reason why I applied it, and definitely after many discussions with the family, we have agreed that it is necessarily, and also it would be a nice add-on to Morning Light Bakery if we can include some outdoor seating area along with the as some of you might know, the only 2 chairs with a few chairs at the bakery site. So we want to have this outdoor area implemented so that we could have more seating options for people who like to just enjoy a pastry and also grab a quick bubble tea to have some short discussion with their friends and families. Just a little area for them to enjoy so they don't have to feel like they're being rushed, and also that they can only grab takeouts all the time. So just a nice add-on, and we would definitely love you guys' opinions on this.
Thank you, Ken. Jenny, I'm assuming everything's in order with the application.
It is. He submitted a diagram which is attached to the cover sheet allowing for the ADA accessibility. He was going out 6 feet. But the application was complete, as you can see, so it's really just up to council to decide to make an approval of this.
Are there any questions or concerns from council? We'd all like to see some outdoor dining there.
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion to approve the new sidewalk permit for Morning Light Bakery.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And Ken, I
Thank you.
see you in the morning.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'll see you Thursday morning.
Sounds great. Look forward to see many of you guys.
Okay, so on to item J. This is on for approval, the certificate, no appeals or suit pending. Jenny will introduce because we haven't done this before, to my knowledge.
No, we haven't, not that I could see. But this is a form annually that we have to submit to Property Valuation Review, saying that we do not have any appeals pending from last year. So, and we don't. So I just would need, if you just go along with that, you would sign it, mayor and council, and then I would submit this to Property Valuation Review, showing that we don't have anything. We did have our grievance hearings today. We did have one. So that decision will be made in 7 days. Actually, the property is going to be visited, but so it's just a simple document that this has to be done annually.
Statutory requirement.
Yes, it is.
Any questions from council? All right, and any questions from members of the public, if we still have any? Checking. Okay, hearing no concerns, do I have a motion to approve the no appeals or suit pending certificate?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Jim. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item K, also on for approval, award contracts for land records indexing and imaging and restoration.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I combined 2 of these to use from our preservation funds, which currently we have a little over $147,000 available in restoration. The first thing is expanding our index for the goal of having online access. So right now we have 11 years worth of records, which is good, but I think we need to capture at least another 11 in here, just so we're 22 years back. I did a RFP, and I had quite a few responses. I made a little, which I've included in yours, what the bids were, what were the good factors, what's kind of stuck out in my mind. And, all 3 of them really could do the job. They really could. So that was a really tough decision. But eventually, the request is to go with our current land records venue, which is Avenue Analytics. They are the middle of the bids. And why is because they The one reason is they're already familiar with our index standards, our requirements. Avenue, being our land records vendor, was charging 8 cents, which is included in theirs, 8 cents extra per page to be loaded onto our server. It was very specific. I learned a lot about our microfilm images. We have 35 reels that we're gonna go back for. So this is where we ended up, and this was posted on our website as well as the bid registry. So I did receive probably about 8 calls and emails about it, but these 3 are the ones who submitted the bids. So I just put it outline, and I did make a note that Records Forest, their bid was $9,000, but you would have to add additional $6,180 because it's not to put it on our server. So I'm just hoping that this is something that we can do. I think it's going to benefit in case, hopefully no more pandemics, but just to give people access. We have quite a few law firms, paralegals that call from the central part of the state, out of state, and this is something they can view. We would still recoup $1 per page, so we would still have our land records we would be collecting, but it just would give us that opportunity to go back further.
Jenny, if you want to get to that, explain the point that you made about the lowest bidder having to take the records with them.
Yes, so the lowest bidder, Records Forest, I really had several conversations with him. The only difference with them being they were the lowest bidder is that he would actually come here from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and take books back. The only part I have is that if somebody's in the office and they need immediate access, we will be able to get that to them. I didn't know if that might create some inefficiencies to give that people, let's say a property's closing tomorrow and I wasn't able to get a hold of them for some reason, and they need to do the title search, which sometimes they come in 24 hours before. I just didn't know if that was the best way to go forward with that. He does a lot of work with NBRC land records, which is a module from NBRC. I don't think it's a searchable, but he's very familiar. He has really, really strong ties. So I can see maybe at some point in time putting our Mylars online, which we do get requests for. I think he would be a good person to do that. Like I said, they were all 3 good. Co-File, I'm very familiar with them. We did a project in Essex with Co-File, so they're all very comparable. They're all doing the same thing. Co-File would do a double entry because all these documents are going to be uploaded, the image as well as indexing. I mean, there's things that I'm going to have to go in and add addresses, but that's okay. I've done it for what we have right now, the 11 years. Make sure we have addresses and redact social security numbers. That's all stuff that I can do. But Co-File does have they do the microfilm, and Avenue is taking it off the microfilm. So I'm hoping the images don't have smudge. I pulled out some reels and looked at them. They look like they're in good shape. They should be. We haven't used them for anything else.
So in addition to the customer service value that Avenue would bring, not having to take them off-site, it is also a risk that records that we only have one of would not be here in a car, in transit, off-site, in a different state, etc.
Right, and the ability not to access them.
Right.
So that was the reason to go. That was another reason to go with Avenue. And I did, as part of that, this project, all 3 of them could start it relatively soon. It's going to take, they're all allowing about 6 months before this goes into effect. By the time these images, so in 6 months, it'll be busy trying to spot check, make sure they're indexed correctly, and that's something that we'll do in-house that I can that I can do. I've indexed for about 20 years, so I like to do it. So, but I like to make sure it's indexed correctly.
Well, thanks for talking through the bids, because I had the wrong impression about the prices and the information there, so that was really helpful. And then, I don't understand then what this sole source estimate is with co-file.
Okay, so that's a separate part which I included.
Okay.
So there
Well,
was.
before you dig into that then, are there any questions
Okay.
from council on the Avenue recommendation?
So, just to spill it out, so you're recommending Avenue, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and. Okay, I think I got it.
Yeah, they're middle because the other two have
Yeah.
that 60, which I didn't
Which you have to
understand
add
at
on
first,
6,100. So sorry I didn't make that clear. I just was putting asterisks. Need to add another 6,180. And that's approximate pages. That's me going through the number of documents that we had versus a rough estimate of pages. So that might vary, but that's pretty close to how many pages we'll be uploading.
Then let's hear about the next piece.
Okay, the next piece is volume 20. So I had an opportunity to look at volume 20, which are all Mylars, all original Mylars from the 50s and the 60s. And it just so happened that in 1 week, 3 people had requested volume 20. It was referenced in their deed to look in volume 20. Volume 20 contains 139 pages. And probably about 100 of them were very difficult to read. I actually had to take one, and they're all different sizes. They're not our traditional Mylar standards. Some were 11 by 14, some were 4 by 48. I mean, we had there, and everything was just been folded and folded and folded over the years. But the thing is, that's our only document that we have for these people. So for the one, I'm like, oh my goodness, it was ripped and torn. So we unfolded it all gently, and then where he needed was on the lower part, which was all ripped. So I just got some little, he kind of held his hand over, and I held the hand, and we matched the pieces together, so we could get a copy of that, because he needed to know it was boundaries. But because all these 139 surveys are referenced in the deeds, and not all, I'm sure all of them, I did spot check about 10, and they all listed volume 20 and a page number. Co-File has been doing this work for many, many years. They are in Essex, and one thing I didn't want to do is to mail it. They're like, just ship it to us. I'm like, no, this is our only record of this. I'm just going to drive it up personally. It's just in Essex, just so you can see the condition. They looked at the condition, and they determined about 75% of the book is in really rough shape. That project, I have brought the book up there. That is probably going to take about 4 months to complete. What they're doing with those images, because if they're microfilming them, but we're going to put them in Mylar sleeves and have a cross index. And if one of those, some of those larger surveys, they're going to be front and back. Just so there's not any creases. We need to get rid of the creases, the rips, the folds. Some will just have one side of a Mylar. So we're just going to, I was thinking about how to index those, and I know how I'm going to do it. So if somebody looks at volume 20, they're going to look at this map, 135, slide A, and they're going to see that reference there. So we're just going to have a separate binder to cross-reference that. I did explore other ways to restore that volume. There just really isn't any, because the different sizes, the range in sizes, it's still going to be that folding, unfolding, and that wear and tear on those documents that are, like I said, the only one that we have. So we need to make sure that we have these. The sole source document is a requirement because they are the only one with this capability right now. So I had our interim manager sign that, as well as our treasurer, to say that CoFile is a leading preservation company in the country. They've been doing this for many years, and it just really needed to be done. And that's also coming out of the preservation funds. And I've attached the bid there for you, so that's what the bid is going to be. But that's part of our duties, is to make sure we have records available.
Thank you.
And they can be legible.
Are there any questions on that item from council?
So CoFile in Essex, is that part of a corporate chain?
It is, but they did purchase Browns River Bindery, which was a company in Underhill about 20 years ago. I remember using them. So they did buy up that local company. But yes, they are a national firm, but they're located on Corporate Drive in Essex.
Okay, because the location for the bid for the larger project
came from Texas.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Two different divisions.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I just ask what the fund balance, the preservation fund balance would be after these two expenditures?
So 60, so it'd be like 90, let's see, so 60 and 16, so 76, so about half. So it'll be about 100 and, it would be like 77,000
Is that a comfortable amount left for addressing any future issues with documents? Does that feel comfortable to leave that amount?
Yeah, it is. One other thing we have to do to the vault, which is just Public Works is going to do it, but we have to, it's required that our birth records be locked, and right now they're open to the public. So that's the only other expenditure that I can see coming. I reached out to some vendors of shelving, and those estimates are really high, 3,000, 4,000, because they're not traditional shelving units that we have. So the proposal is just to lock, it's 4 feet by 10 feet, put 2 doors, and our Public Works staff is going to be fabricating the metal, because those have to be locked to be in compliance with vital records with the Vermont Department of Health. So that's the only other thing that I can foresee. I just, maybe see how these extra 11 years go, and maybe a little bit down the line, but we'll still be building to this fund, to the preservation fund. We add to this $4 for every page that we record gets added to this fund.
And that equates to about $20,000 a year at this point. Prior to that, we were only adding about $5,000 a year until they increased the per page restoration amount.
Thank you, Clerks Association.
Yes.
Okay, I have not heard any concerns. Does someone want to make a motion to approve the award of these contracts for land records indexing, imaging, and restoration?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Well,
Thank
thank
you,
you. Appreciate it.
So we are on to item L, which we added during agenda review. I am looking for a motion to approve rescheduling our June 20 City Council meeting to June 21st, given the holiday we approved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us to the end of tonight's regular items. We have warned an executive session. I am looking for a motion to find that pursuant to State Statute Section 3131B regarding labor relations agreements with employees, specifically the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees Agreement. We should not have this conversation in public. It would put the city at a disadvantage.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And now I'm looking for a motion to enter into executive session, inviting City Manager Elaine Wong and Director of Public Works John Rocher.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are going to enter into an executive session to discuss only this topic. No other topics will be discussed. We will come out of that session solely to adjourn the meeting. back on?
Oh,
Okay, well, we can do a roll call vote. So we have reached the end of tonight's agenda. I am seeking a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Motion by Bryn, second by Jim. Aurora?
Aye.
You can start again.
Thomas?
Aye.
Oh,
That's all right.
myself, aye.
Aye.
Jim? Bryn? Yes, okay. We have all voted in favor of adjournment.
No
Thank
action.
you.